Corvids are some of society's most incredible birds, whether it makes up part of our culture or our mythology. Ravens, crows, magpies, and jays are some of the most intelligent creatures on the entire planet, solving puzzles and even utilizing tools to do so. But how much do you know about corvids from other parts of the world? Let's dive into the fantastic world of the family Corvidae, and you'll be surprised at what you'll learn. As always, we're going to start off with some corvid basics. So, like I mentioned before, corvids are some of the most intelligent creatures on this entire planet, definitely the most intelligent birds on the planet, and they use some of the most advanced tool technology in the avian world. Corvids are often found in people's histories and mythologies, and they even capture the minds and imaginations of some of the most famous writers in history, such as Edgar Allan Poe and his story of the Raven. But what qualifies something as a corvid? The family Corvidae includes crows, jays, and magpies. Their physical characteristics typically include really stout bills and strong feet, and they have feathers at the base of their beak called rictal bristles. But not all birds, as we've seen with the owl series that I did, fit into this mold. And we're going to talk about some of these outliers in just a minute. Of course, they're extremely intelligent, like I've already said 5 or 6 times, and you're going to hear that throughout the video. They can even rival some primates in advanced cognitive abilities such as tool construction and self-recognition. So they're not just intelligent by a bird standard, they're intelligent by just other outside of human species standards. But where can corvids be found across the world? Corvids can be found on almost every single continent outside of Antarctica, of course. The most recognizable corvid from every continent includes the common raven from North America, the plush-crested jay from South America, the Eurasian magpie from Europe, the large-billed crow from Asia, the pied crow from Africa, and the Australian raven from the Oceania continents. Corvids are heavy generalists and utilize almost every single habitat on Earth, including the desert, urban areas, Arctic tundras, mountains, and rainforests. They aren't, however, found on the island of New Zealand, which is a little bit odd, or Patagonia. This absence is kind of a mystery. We're not exactly sure why they aren't in these 2 places, but they're everywhere else. Being generalist, corvids are opportunistic feeders, meaning that they'll eat pretty much anything. Many corvids, such as ravens and crows, will actually raid the nests of other birds and eat their eggs or their young. Other corvids are tied to specific plants, such as one of my favorite corvid species, the Clark's nutcracker native to North America. Clark's nutcrackers eat specific oak tree seeds, and what they'll do is they'll actually hide hundreds of thousands of these seeds every single year, and they'll remember where like 80% of those seeds are hidden in the ground, and the ones that aren't found, the 20%, end up planting entire forests. So they're really incredible birds. Some corvids are also scavengers and really take advantage of carcasses and other roadkill on the road. Corvids being highly generalized means that they're really able to be pretty successful around the world. There's only a small fraction of corvids that are threatened, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Just like their diet, breeding is pretty diverse across the family Corvidae. Most corvids are monogamous, and they actually build their nests into cup shapes. They'll typically build these nests on, tree branches or cliff edges, but some corvids are a little bit more unique, and they'll nest in cavities or even burrows. Of course, these birds are more outliers within the different genera in Corvidae. On average, corvids can lay anywhere between 1 to 9 eggs, but on average across the genera, they lay about 3 eggs. Parents will actually help feed the young for up to 10 weeks, but it could be a bit longer depending on some of the species, and some species do cooperative breeding, and we'll talk about one of those species in just a minute. 26 species in Corvidae are threatened, and most of this is due to habitat loss. And that 26 species ends up being about 21% of all corvid species. 13 are near threatened, 8 are vulnerable, 2 species are endangered, 2 are critically endangered, and 1 species is extinct in the wild. Now, I recently visited the island of Hawaii, and that is home to this extinct in the wild crow species called the alala, or the Hawaiian crow. But they are making efforts to try to reintroduce it back to the island, and I really hope they're successful because it's an absolutely vital bird for the ecosystem. There are 22 genera in the family Corvidae, and that includes 136 species overall. The genus with the most species is probably what most people, at least in North America, are most familiar with, and that's the genus Corvus. This includes ravens and crows from around the world. They all look pretty similar to one another, being closely related, but some standouts include the thick-billed raven from Ethiopia, the piping crow from Indonesia, and the really strange-looking gray crow from New Guinea. But let's take this strange corvid thing a bit further and let's talk about some of the strangest members of the family Corvidae. The first on my list is the Ethiopian bush crow. This stands alone in its genus and it lives in a very small 2,300 square kilometer area in southern Ethiopia. In fact, it's so tied to that area that it can't survive outside of it, making it extremely endangered. And what's cool about this species is they'll build their nests entirely out of thorns and mud, making them one of the most fortified nests in the corvid world. Next on my list is the black-headed jay, and these birds are the troublemakers of the Himalayas. They travel in squads and they'll actually use voice mimicry to fool their prey. So they'll mimic the sound of birds of prey in the area, making birds abandon their nests, and then these birds, these corvids, get a free scrambled egg meal to go along with their effort. Next on my list is probably one of the coolest birds in Corvidae, and that's the ratchet-tailed tree pie. It's got perhaps one of the strangest tails in the entire bird world, and the tail looks more like a saw. They have these serrated edges that go down the sides of the tail. They're native to Southeast Asia, and scientists think that its jagged tail feathers actually help the bird to balance on the vertical tree branches in the very thick and dense jungles of the region. Next up is the tufted jay, and this is also found in a very small misty strip of the Mexican Sierra Madre Occidental. Besides looking really, really cool with its crest sitting on top of its head and its really, really bright eyes, they live in breeding packs, and this is where that cooperative breeding I was talking about takes place. Essentially, the entire community of these birds will come together. The younger generations of these birds will actually help to raise the young of these chicks, and they call them nannies. And so it's not just the pair of parents trying to take care of their young, it's an entire community formulated around some of the first or second years actually stepping in and taking care of the kids. It's pretty cool. Next on my list is related to the Clark's nutcracker. It's known as the northern nutcracker. These birds are native to the Palearctic, and they can carry up to 100 seeds at a time in a pouch hidden under their tongue. They bury nearly 100,000 seeds every single year, and they can remember the exact location of these seeds under the snow at about an 80% rate, which is pretty incredible. The remaining 20% of these seeds, just like the Clark's nutcracker, end up planting massive forests, and this makes this bird and the other nutcracker species some of the greatest geographic engineers in the entire world. But let's move on to some standalone corvids. These are the remaining corvids in their own solo genus. Now, we've already mentioned a few of these, like the ratchet-tailed tree pie that stands alone in the genus Temnurus, but others include the pinion jay, native to North America. This is in the genus Gymnorinus, and it's native to Western North America. This bird is nomadic, also bright blue. They'll travel in large groups and they'll move from pinion forest to pinion forest searching for food. The next bird stands alone in the genus Tylostomus, and it's called the piapiac. This strange corvid is native to central western Africa, and it's a very small corvid with a very long tail and a beautiful pink bill when they are juveniles. It's one of the few species that I think looks way more pretty as a juvenile than it does in adult. But let's move on to the weirdest genus in the family Corvidae. Now, obviously this is subjective, and we've already talked about a few standalone genera that are quite possibly the strangest in the genus Corvidae. But the genus I'm going to pick for this category is Podosis, and this includes 4 species: the Mongolian, Xinjiang, Turkestan, and Iranian ground jays. Now, most corvids have pretty straight and thick bills across the family Corvidae, but not those in the genus Podosis. These birds have down-curved bills that look much more like thrashers than corvid bills. They use these bills to dig into sand dunes in the region for insects. Evolution is just freaking awesome. Evolution has also led these birds to have a sandy-colored plumage, which is in direct contrast to most corvid species that are jet black or have a little bit of white on them. They also prefer to run rather than to fly. In fact, they'll only take off into the air, kind of like the greater roadrunner, if they have to. Most of the time, they're just totally fine running across the desert landscape, making them one of the coolest genus in the family Corvidae. But now let's move on to some fast corvid facts. Number 1, corvids will often gather around their dead to perform a neighborhood watch to figure out what killed the bird dead on the ground. This is to make sure that they don't befall the same fate, and this is often called a funeral. Number 2, scrub jays will actually spy on other birds and then steal food caches of other birds to make sure that they only have to do half the work. If they think a bird is spying on them, they'll end up moving their entire cache somewhere else. Number 3, some corvids can recognize individual human faces, and they can even pass this information down to further generations. So if you've done something wrong to corvids, generations of these birds will likely hold a grudge against you. The same goes for if you do something right to corvids, maybe you'll have generations of birds as your friend. Number 4, green magpies turn completely bright blue if they get too much sunlight. That's because their green plumage is tied directly to their diet. So if they're also not eating very well, that color is going to change. Number 5, many corvid species will practice something called anting. This means that they'll rub live ants onto their feathers, and then the ants will release an acid, and this will help clear their feathers of any mites. Again, these birds are super smart. Number 6, New Caledonian crows are the only non-human animals on Earth that can manufacture hooked tools using different twigs in the wild. Well, there you have it, one of the most incredible bird families in the entire world. Let me know in the comments below though, what was your favorite fact from this video, or is there anything that I missed that you think should have been talked about? Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to support my channel, links to my membership program are in the description below. You get access to early videos if you'd like, as well as a few other perks. Or you can check out my merch, also linked in the description below. I really appreciate it. Make sure you also check out Bright-Eyed Birding, my main channel where I take you on birding adventures once per week and find some of these birds in the wild. Like I mentioned, we just got back from Hawaii, so if you want to see the birds that are on the island of Hawaii, then you definitely want to check out Bright-Eyed Birding and subscribe over there as well. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you all next time on Bright-Eyed Birding Learn.